The world of Diablo is a dark place full of secrets, but also cows. So today it's my job to shed some light on a few lesser known facts about this legendary series. Okay, so Diablo wasn't literally created by Batman and his buddies. Their day jobs keep them a little too busy for that, but those Caped Crusaders did actually play a vital role in the conception. David Brevik was working on a fighting game called Justice League Task Force when he came up with the idea that would eventually become the diabolical dungeon crawler that we all know and love. He even had a name all cooked up for it, Diablo, taken from California's Mount Diablo, which is where Brevik was living at the time. The only problem was that at the time, not a lot of studios were looking to publish RPGs, and that's where the Justice League came to the rescue. While its spandex-clad action might not have much to do with Diablo, Justice League Task Force put Brevik in touch with the game's publisher, a studio named Condor Games, or Blizzard Entertainment as we know them today. He pitched Diablo to them and Blizzard gave him the go-ahead, even making one extremely important suggestion along the way. Diablo was originally conceived as a turn-based game, and while I'm always down for that sort of tactical encounter, Diablo just wouldn't be the same without its famous button-bashing combat. Fortunately, Blizzard felt the same way and suggested the switch to real time. And after the developers took a quick vote to be all democratic and whatnot, the developers agreed. And that's not the only way that Diablo's gameplay was almost fundamentally different. You might notice that the warrior is the only character shown in the game's cutscenes. And that's because classes themselves were only added way into the game's development. Finally, Diablo was going to feature a mechanic called Map of the Stars, which saw the big bad himself getting a massive power boost once the stars aligned. Effectively, it meant that the player had to hightail it to the end of the game if they didn't want to be at a massive disadvantage. A neat idea, but one that discouraged the player from exploring and experimenting. So the developers ultimately decided to scrap it. And it's not just that Diablo almost played completely differently than the game we know, it was also going to look completely different too. A lot of odd trends took hold in the 90s, yo-yos, frosted tips, beanie babies, and claymation. Games like Clay Fighter had plasticine, the must-have material for some developers, and Diablo was going to follow suit before they realized how incredibly expensive and time-consuming that process would be. So they changed course and settled on its famous isometric aesthetic. Sidebar, but if you are hankering for some stop-motion gaming, head over to Game Pass and check out Harold Halibut when that arrives on the 16th of April. One of the best things about Diablo is that you can craft your very own character, while the game keeps their personal details vague enough for you to interpret them however you like. Was your barbarian an only child? Did your sorcerer go through a messy divorce? How's your druid's credit score? Those type of things. However, the first game's hero initially did have an official backstory. They were raised in the game's hub town of Tristram and had returned to avenge the deaths of their family, solving the mystery of what happened to them along the way. Would you like a Diablo game with that sort of backstory, or do you prefer to have a blank slate to work with? Make your case down in the comments. At the height of the satanic panic, some parents were worried that devilish games like Diablo might actually be transmitting secret messages to their poor, suggestible children. And in Diablo's case, they were right. Well, kinda. When you enter level 16 in the original Diablo, you'll hear a demonic voice saying something that sounds incredibly sinister. However, if you play the audio backwards, the voice is actually telling players to eat your vegetables and brush after every meal.
Eat your vegetables and brush after every meal.
The second message is hidden in the game's starting screen and is only visible once you've messed with brightness or color of your display. And it's not especially evil either, it just says Natalie Portman rocks. And who could possibly disagree with that? Diablo 2's secret cow level is almost so famous that I guess it's not really secretive anymore, but it's still really funny, especially when you find out how it came about. After the first Diablo game was released, a rumor somehow got started that a hidden area full of cows existed somewhere within the game. I really cannot stress enough how much this was complete nonsense. The game contained no bovine content of any kind whatsoever at all. None. But not wanting to disappoint their fans, Blizzard did then add a level filled with evil cows into the second game, complete with its very own Cow King as the area's boss. Although, just to mess with people, the developers continued to deny the existence of any such level. The cows haven't been seen since the second game, but Diablo 3 features its own hidden level. This time it's filled with unicorns and teddy bears and all cheerful things that can all be brutally murdered. Teddy bears aren't Diablo 3's only secret though. There are also two hidden dungeons known as Development Hell and the Quality Well, both of which see the player fending off a horde of brain-hungry zombies. Except these aren't just any old hollowed out husks of ruined humanity. They're the Diablo 3 developers. Or at least they bear the same names as the game's development and quality assurance teams. You'll need to be patient if you want to meet them though, as the entrance to these dungeons has a less than 1% chance of spawning at any given time, and only on the game's higher difficulties. Bonus point, if you're a fan of Canadian DJs with iconic rodent-based headgear, Diablo 3 also features a helm called Halcyon's Ascent, which is modeled after Deadmau5's famous mouse-shaped helmet. Some things are just meant to be, like Diablo 4 raking in $666 million in global sales in just the first 5 days after launch. While it's incredibly fitting and just a little unsettling that it hit the number of the beast so immediately, the fact that it was so massively successful doesn't require any supernatural explanation. It's a brilliant game that basically takes everything players have been enjoying about the series for the past 3 decades and makes it bigger, better, and breathtakingly gorgeous. And if you aren't one of the many people who've checked out Diablo 4 already, it's now available on Game Pass. No excuses. There are loads of exciting new things happening in Diablo all the time, including a brand new game-changing season coming very soon. But for more info on that and loads more gaming lessons, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell. Class dismissed.